everyone, my name is Nompumelelo Mieni. You can call me Coach Nompumelelo. Welcome to NM Coaching Firm's YouTube channel. And if this is the first time you're stumbling upon us, oh my goodness, you have missed amazing things. Therefore, I would advise you to subscribe onto our channel and make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you will know every time that we put up a video. Now, we are still running our self-mastery season, and we have actually been going through amazing topics. So if you have missed any of our videos, please do go back down to our history. You will find from our very first episode where we explained in full what is self-mastery, and then you will keep going and you will catch up with us. We are now literally on episode number 4 of self-mastery, and thank you to everyone that's been following us thus far. Now let's get on to it, and I'm actually excited about this one, and you will see and I get to understand why just in a short while. This episode we are talking about mastering your needs and your wants. All the time there's always been about knowing the difference, but this time I am simply introducing a concept to you that says you have got to be able to master your needs and your wants. Why is that even important? That's because our needs is basically, as explained, what we need to survive. What do we need to survive? What can we not live without? And our wants have a lot to do with our desires. What do we desire to have? What do we desire to look like? You know, the car that I want is much different to the car that I need, and that's just an example of how those two things can be different. But now, why do we need to master them? That's because they inform a larger part of the decisions that we make on a daily basis. The needs and the wants are usually the core of the decisions that we are making on a daily basis, and that is why we need to make sure that we've got a grip on them and we're mastering them in terms of the knowledge that we have about our needs and the knowledge that we have about our wants. Most of the time, needs don't even need us to learn anything. They are just there. We need shelter, we need transportation, we need food, we need clothing, we need comfort, we need heat, we need gas, we need power. Those are the things that are just there, sitting there as needs, and we are daily trying to maneuver around them on what can I do to be able to achieve this and that for my family or for myself if you don't have a family yet. And the wants are mostly informed by what we see from other people, what we see from television, what we see in the movies, what we see in our social, cycles, and that usually informs the wants. Of course, you would never want a Range Rover that you have never seen. You would see it somewhere and then it becomes a want that, okay, you know what, I'd actually really love or want to have that one day in my own life for my own use. And that becomes a want, which means our wants mostly are informed by really our social cycles. Most of the time you might find that somebody would say, oh, I would like to drive a nice car one day, and you ask them, what is that nice car? And maybe they would say, oh yeah, you know what, a Corolla, something, which is something that they've seen in their own cycles, and then somebody who might then have a want, and it's a much bigger brand, it's a much more expensive brand, but that's because it's informed by also their circles as well, the things that they've seen in life, the people that they've been in contact with in life, the things that they've been able to see on TV and consume into their minds to turn them into the wants. Now, why is it different? Why is it important for us to be able to master this? It's important for us so that we, first of all, I mentioned that it is important because it informs our daily decisions. And secondly, it is important because it also informs or propels our vision in terms of where do we want to go, or what do we see and what do we envision for our life in the future. Now, if you can't master your wants and needs, you will always be confusing them. Most of the time, you find that a lot of us would confuse. If we were to be given an opportunity to write a list now that says, let me write a list of your needs and write a list of your wants, you'll find that it's actually quite mixed up, because we don't have the mastery sensory towards it, where we can then now say that I've mastered understanding of what is my need and understanding of what is my want, and I'm able to ensure that even though the scales might never be totally balanced on it, but I'm able to at least tilt it a bit towards a particular balance. You need to be able to know how to set them apart. That's a mastery, a skill that you learn when you are insisting on ensuring that I want to master my needs and my wants. You need to be able to learn to set them apart. You need to be able to identify that when I'm saying to myself, I can't have this, I'm not depriving myself of a need, but I'm depriving myself of a want, in order for me to be able to afford or to be able to acquire my needs or the things that I need for that particular time. Now, also mastering them is a way of assisting you to not lose sight of what is it that you would like and what is it that you are actually working towards. It also helps you not to ignore them. I think most of the time, the way we get so spoken to about wants, it's in a way that it's being tried to, that we need to ignore the wants. The wants is not something that we should be focusing on. I'm not saying we should focus on them, but I'm saying because they are our desires and they then inform particular emotions inside us, they do not need to be ignored, but they can be placed and planned for a particular season or a particular time in our lives. Like, for instance, affordability. One can say, I would like to live in this particular kind of house. It's a want, because a need would be, I need shelter. So when you start to put specifications, then you're moving more towards and leaning more towards a want. So when you want, a particular thing, it goes with a particular emotion inside you that would be satisfied when you get that thing, that would feel a sense of achievement when you get to that thing. So you can put your want at a particular stage of life where you say, when I get here, I'm certain that I will be able to achieve, to give myself this want that I've had for this particular time. That is why I am insisting on the fact that in as much as our needs take priority, but your wants also don't get ignored, because they are your reward system. That's another thing that I wanted to mention today, that wants can be used as a reward system, where because you have achieved this particular need and ensured comfortability or comfort in this particular need, you can then reward yourself by giving yourself a particular want that you have had for the longest time. Let me make a typical example, maybe a ladylike example. There's a pair of shoes that you probably like, and it's an X amount of money and it's expensive, but you know that you are actually paying for school fees to ensure that you get your degree that will allow you to be able to get maybe a more senior position that will pay you more. Now, in this example, one could always take the school fees and go buy the shoes, but you can always plan to buy shoes that are in that expensive bracket when you actually achieve what you have put as your need, which is getting your degree and getting a higher position. So you see, you're not completely depriving yourself, but you're simply placing the want at a place of affordability, at a place where you can use it as a reward. So on the day where you get your promotion and you get your higher salary, you then go and say, you know what, I've worked hard. I can use my want that I've had on my want list for such a long time as a reward for what I've achieved in terms of my needs that I have put for myself, to say I need to achieve 1, 2, and 3 in order for me to get to a place that I want to get to in life. So the list for wants is not one for squashing away and throwing away. It is actually one for framing, I always believe, so that you really use them as your reward system, where you are able to say, I'm giving myself this because I have worked hard to make sure in the needs category I am well comfortable. Now, what is the danger of not having yourself mastering the needs and the wants? The danger is that you could find yourself spending your money more on wants more than on needs. But we're not on the spending part today, but you could find yourself that in your mind you are focusing more on getting the wants than securing the needs in your life. And you find as you go on in life, your needs are wiggling the things that you really need. You know, you have a very expensive car parked next to a maybe a falling apart house, you know what I mean? I'm just making an example. Or you have very expensive shoes that are sitting in a wardrobe in a falling apart house. This is just examples of the fact that now you are in danger of the fact that you have mixed your wants and you have with your needs, and you don't have proper understanding and proper mastery in terms of what is it that you really need and what is it that you really want. What should you get now and what should you get later? So one of the biggest dangers of not mastering the needs and wants is mixing them up and ending up sabotaging yourself in the process, where you could be enjoying successes, but because you had this mixed up, you are now not able to achieve or to celebrate successes. You might just find yourself in debt or higher debt simply because you followed the wants and less on the needs part. It is so important that you make sure that you do not mix, this list up. It's also important because you are then able to plan. Understanding or mastering your needs and your wants allows you an opportunity to plan. When you know that these are my needs at the moment, then you plan for your needs and you also plan for your wants. I will still repeat this one more time. Do not ignore your wants. Use your wants as a reward system. Use your wants as a reward system where you get what you want because you've been able to reach a level of comfort on the needs aspect, and you've been able to achieve a particular thing in your goals, within your vision, and you've been able to propel yourself forward in as far as ensuring comfort on the needs part. So your wants get to sit there as what you're going to reward yourself with as time goes along. Now, another reason why it is important to make sure that you master your needs and your want is so that you reach self-satisfaction. Many people, or many of us, I must just say, that we sort of short-lived satisfaction because we work on short-term achievements, and those short-term achievements allow us to have short-lived sort of celebrations or rewards or anything like that. because we have focused on what do I want now, and I go and I get it now, and I celebrate it now. Like that pair of shoes example that I made. So if I went and got this pair of shoes now, I'd enjoy putting them on now, but it is a short-lived celebration of achievement, because tomorrow it's no longer a new shoe, it's now an old shoe, which means I will then require another new shoe to also get myself back into the celebratory, mood, the achievement mood. But if we focused on longer term achievement, which sits on the needs side of things, we are then able to make sure that we can have long-term celebratory processes. Have you ever noticed that, I'm going to make an example of a house, that when you get a house, everybody, even if you've lived there for 10 years, everyone who hasn't come into your house before comes in and says, oh, what a nice house you've got here. That takes you back to a celebratory mode, to an achievement mode, which means you stay longer on the achievement and on the celebratory than you would in most of the time the wants, which are mostly usually things that lose value over time. That pair of shoes example that I made is something that lose value over time, because a new one, a more stylish one, will come through into the market, and I would feel the sense or the need to go and get that one now, because the sense now is saying, for me to feel the achievement, I need to now get the latest one once again. Whereas most of the time with achieving, the comfort level of the wants leaves you at the celebratory, leave you with a sense of achievement for longer periods of time. And that is why it's also important for you to be able to master that. That means that even when I want to go out with people, have in a restaurant and have a good time, sometimes I will withdraw that want because I have a particular need that I need to be able to achieve. But that doesn't mean that that want will go away, but I need to have a conversation with that want to say, you will happen, just not right now, because I have a particular need that I need to address. That conversation is critical, but it also happens nicely when it is clear, the list that we have in front of us on what are my needs and what are my wants, and I have mastered the understanding of these two things and how they impact my life. I'm going to end it there for the mastering of the needs and the wants. Thank you so much for following us, and please do also follow us, subscribe, hit that notification bell to ensure that you can be notified of our next episode. See you next time.